Hi, I'm Chuck Marundi, exclusive buyer's agent in sunny Sequim, Washington. And today I'm bringing in someone to discuss how listings are marketed and advertised. Hearty welcome to my guest, John Pfizer. John's knowledge and research includes over 30 years in the real estate business and includes the perspective of a broker and a trainer of a national franchise with 40 plus agents. This includes the experience of a traditional bricks-and-mortar broker with a deep corporate knowledge of the entire real estate industry, especially the listing side of the business. Thank you, John, for agreeing to be with me today.
Thank you, Chuck. I'm very pleased to join you for this interview.
Let's get right to the subject that interests home sellers who list their homes with listing brokers like you or who are considering listing their homes. The first question I'm sure many potential clients would have for you is exactly what do you do to market and advertise their home so it'll get sold at the highest possible price?
When I list a home, my goal is to provide maximum exposure to qualified buyers, so I rely on the time-tested systems that have served clients for us for decades. Let me run through a list of how we market and advertise a home.
Great.
Number 1, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. We start with a professionally written MLS listing, entered into the Northwest MLS with high-quality photographs. This feeds directly to dozens of major consumer websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, and hundreds of brokerage sites. So your home gets instant visibility across the region and even nationally. Number 2, professional photography. We typically arrange for professional photography, sometimes including drone shots or twilight images if the home calls for it. A home's first showing happens online, so visuals are critical. Number 3, branded yard signage. We like to place a high-visibility branded yard sign on the property. Despite all the tech, we still find that drive-by traffic leads to calls, especially in tight-knit communities. Number 4, in-house office and agent networking. Because I manage a brokerage of 40 agents, we announce new listings at our weekly office meetings and push it out to our internal agent email list. That internal network often produces buyers faster than public platforms do. Number 5, open houses. We host traditional open houses for the public and sometimes broker-only tours. We think open houses increase exposure, especially during that crucial first 2 weeks on market. Number 6, print marketing. We use property flyers in the home and distribute them in the office and sometimes through direct mail in the neighborhood, especially if it's a move-up neighborhood where nearby owners might know someone looking. Okay, I think I'm at number 7. Franchise website placement. Because I'm part of a national franchise, your listing is syndicated not just locally, but through our national brand site. And that network reach helps capture relocation buyers. Number 8, social media. Some of our agents run social media ads or posts, though I admit our franchise tends to move slowly here. Still, we'll do some Facebook boosts and Instagram posts to target certain demographics. And lastly, number 9, email campaigns. We also email new listings out to our past clients and other agents. We have a database we tap into with every new listing. But I want to be clear, Chuck, we don't chase gimmicks. We stick with what has been proven over time. When priced right and marketed consistently through these channels, we get results, and that means more money in our clients' pockets. And that's a good thing.
Of course, I would expect, as a homeowner, that my listing would be in the Northwest MLS, but can't I just post it as a homeowner in the Northwest MLS myself as a for sale by owner?
Good question, Chuck. And I hear variations of this quite often from savvy homeowners who want to explore all their options. The short answer is no. A homeowner cannot post their property directly in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service as a for sale by owner. Here's why. First, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service is broker only. The Northwest Multiple Listing Service is a private cooperative database, not a public listing platform. Only licensed real estate brokers who are dues-paying members of the Northwest Multiple Listing Service can input listings into the system. Homeowners, attorneys, or even unlicensed assistants do not have access to post listings directly. Second, a listing in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service requires a broker affiliation. Even flat fee or entry-only MLS listings require that a licensed broker represent you, even if it's minimally. You'd need to sign a listing agreement, even if it's stripped down. So, in that sense, it's not truly FSBO once you're on the MLS, you're using a broker. Third, why the restriction? The Northwest Multiple Listing Service maintains control to ensure listing accuracy, rule compliance, and accountability. Every listing in the system represents a contractual relationship with a broker who agrees to abide by professional standards. That protects the data and the reputation of the system. Fourth, alternatives outside the Northwest Multiple Listing Service exist. If a seller truly wants to list their FSBO, their option is to post on websites like Zillow or private FSBO sites. But those won't get you the same exposure, and more importantly, they don't include automatic syndication or broker-to-broker cooperation. Fifth, cooperation in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. By listing in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service through a broker, you're offering compensation to buyers' agents, which greatly increases showings and buyer activity. A true FSBO often gets ignored by buyers' agents unless there's a clear path to commission. Most buyers are represented and their agents use the MLS exclusively. So, while a FSBO might seem like a good idea on the surface, the inability to post directly to the Northwest Multiple Listing Service is a significant limitation. And frankly, it's one of the key reasons most serious sellers eventually work with a broker like me.
It sounds like what you're saying is that the number one key to marketing a home to qualified buyers for any homeowner is to make absolutely certain that your listing is in the Northwest MLS. Once a homeowner has his listing in the Northwest MLS, it will be included in as many as 30,000 broker members, at least their public MLS sites. Plus, the Northwest MLS automatically syndicates, to listing in Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, and many other syndicated sites. So, have I got that right? The key to marketing success starts and ends with a homeowner having his listing in the Northwest MLS?
Yes, Chuck. The Northwest Multiple Listing Service is by far the largest and most comprehensive MLS in Washington state, particularly for residential real estate. Here's a breakdown of why it's considered the best for listing exposure in our region. First, its geographic reach. The Northwest Multiple Listing Service covers more than 75% of Washington state's population, including all major population centers west of the Cascades and some areas to the east. This includes Seattle and the entire Puget Sound region, King, Pierce, Snohomish, Kitsap, Thurston, and Skagit counties. It also covers popular outlying counties like Clallam, Jefferson, and Chelan, and key cities like Bellevue, Tacoma, Everett, Olympia, Bellingham, and Wenatchee. This reach gives sellers unmatched visibility to serious buyers across the state. Second, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service is big on agent participation. It has over 30,000 real estate brokers as members. That's a huge pool of professionals working on behalf of buyers, almost all of whom rely exclusively on the Northwest Multiple Listing Service for up-to-date listing data, property history, pricing trends, and showing coordination. Third, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service is known for data integrity and accuracy. Compared to national portals like Zillow or Trulia, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service offers real-time updates with no delays, full listing histories, including price changes and days on market, broker remarks, showing instructions, and documents not visible to the public. The Northwest Multiple Listing Service includes compliance oversight to reduce misleading or inaccurate information. This makes the Northwest Multiple Listing Service unquestionably the source of truth for active and pending listings in Washington.
Would you call it, John, a disservice to listing clients if a listing broker in the Northwest MLS coverage area is not a member of the Northwest MLS and only a member of a much smaller MLS like the Olympic listing service on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington?
You've got it exactly right, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Let me confirm and elaborate a bit as your traditional broker. Yes, the single most important factor in marketing a home today is getting it listed in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. Once the listing is in the Northwest MLS, here's what happens. The first thing that happens is the listing gets instant exposure to 30,000 plus brokers. Your home is immediately visible to every licensed Northwest MLS member, which means nearly every active buyer's agent in the state now sees your listing. Granted, almost all agents are listing agents, and exclusive buyers' agents represent a small percentage. Those agents have auto alerts set up for their buyers, and the minute your home hits the system, those buyers may be notified if they are registered to receive new listing alerts with that listing's specific parameters. The second thing that happens is the syndication to major real estate portals. The Northwest MLS syndicates your listing out to high-traffic consumer sites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin, Homes.com, and hundreds of brokerage and franchise websites. That means buyers from across the country and around the world can see your home within 24 hours, often sooner. The third thing that happens is that listings get real-time updates. When price changes, contingencies, or status updates occur, they're immediately reflected on all the platforms that pull from the Northwest MLS. That prevents misinformation, which is common when sellers try to list outside the system or on outdated FSBO sites. The fourth thing that happens as a result of being listed in the Northwest MLS is that the listing is included in a centralized offer and showing system. Buyers' agents can schedule showings through integrated tools like Showing Time. They can download documents, read broker remarks, and submit offers, all inside the Northwest MLS framework. That system creates efficiency, cooperation, and momentum in a way no third-party listing service can match. This is because the listing is put into the Northwest MLS. That's the key. The fifth thing that happens is everything else we do as listing brokers to market a listing is supplemental. Yes, I'll still put up a sign if the seller agrees, send email blasts, post on social media, and host an open house if it's warranted. But all of those things combined won't come close to the reach and impact of the Northwest MLS exposure. Here's the final word. You're absolutely right, Chuck. In today's world, the beginning, middle, and end of effective home marketing is being in the Northwest MLS. If you're not in that system, you're invisible to the market that matters most, serious, qualified buyers working with real agents. And if your listing broker isn't a member of the Northwest MLS, then you're not actually on the playing field. You're standing outside the stadium.
Wow. Regarding professional photography, there's no doubt excellent photographs are a key to presenting a property on the internet. You normally hire a professional real estate photographer and bill your client for that. Is that correct?
Actually, in my office and in most traditional brokerages like mine, we typically pay for the professional photography ourselves as part of our full-service listing package. It's not usually billed separately to the client. Let me explain the rationale. We consider the photography a standard marketing cost. In our traditional model, hiring a professional photographer is simply considered a cost of doing business. Just like the yard sign, the flyers, or the MLS listing itself, professional photography is a foundational part of presenting the home, and it reflects on our brand as much as the property. It's built into the commission. When we agree to list a home, typically at 5% to 6% commission split with the buyer's agent, we're taking on marketing expenses up front. That includes photography, possibly drone shots, and sometimes a video tour. The idea is we invest in the listing so it sells faster and for more money, which benefits both the seller and us. Especially in mid to high-end markets, and even more so in the Northwest MLS territory, professional photography is expected. If we started charging clients separately for that, we'd lose listings to other brokers who offer it as a standard part of the package. Of course, there are exceptions. On lower-end or distressed properties, where the seller doesn't want full service, we may scale back and negotiate limited marketing. Some brokerages using a discount model or menu of services will bill separately for photography. But that's not the traditional model we follow. We believe we earn our commission not just by bringing a buyer, but by making the home look its best. coordinating all the moving parts and guiding the transaction start to finish. That starts with great photography on our dime. If a seller pushed back and wanted to handle their own photos, I'd strongly advise against it. Cell phone shots or amateur photos can cost the seller far more in final sale price than they would ever save by skipping the pro. That's how my office handles photography.
So you normally pay for the photographs, and that costs what? Let's say $300?
Yes, Chuck, you're right. $300 is a typical ballpark figure for professional real estate photography, though it can vary based on location, size of the home, and what's included. And drone videos can get expensive.
That's good to know. Let's talk about signage, another way that you advertise a property. Many homeowners do not want a sign in their front yard. They don't want to advertise that their house is for sale to the public. And many homeowners don't want a lockbox on their front door either, for security reasons, since somewhere around 30,000 Northwest MLS members actually have an electronic key. If a client doesn't want a sign in front and they don't want a lockbox, can you still advertise the home effectively?
Yes, we can still advertise and sell a home effectively without a sign and without a lockbox. But it does come with some trade-offs, and I always make sure clients understand those clearly up front. When a seller declines a sign, you lose local visibility, especially from neighbors or drive-by traffic who may know someone looking. You limit curb appeal marketing. Prospective buyers driving by can't connect the dots from what they saw online to what they see in person. We also lose some momentum within the local agent community because agents still notice new listings by sign when driving around with clients. That said, for privacy reasons, some sellers, especially those with higher-end properties or personal security concerns, don't want to broadcast that the home is for sale. We respect that completely. It's not a deal breaker. Lock boxes, especially Sentry Lock or Supra electronic boxes, allow secure, trackable access. We know exactly which licensed agent entered and when. Buyers' agents can show with less friction, especially on evenings and weekends. The first 7 to 10 days on market are critical, and making the home harder to show can reduce activity when it matters most. Still, not using a lockbox is always our client's call. Even without a sign and without a lockbox, we still have the Northwest MLS exposure with syndication to Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, and hundreds of other sites. While I recommend a sign and lockbox as standard practice, I also understand not every client has the same comfort level. My job is to work within our clients' boundaries and still get the home sold at the best price in the right time frame. And we've absolutely sold homes under these conditions before. As I said, it's always the client's call.
Local visibility does raise the question of where buyers are when they're looking for a home in a geographic area. In a condo complex of 500 condos, a sign of some kind visible to the public would undoubtedly be helpful, I think, on a local scale. But in rural areas where the vast majority of buyers are retirees coming from out of state, they are looking online, right, on MLS sites. Even someone looking for a condo in a city is going to probably start and continue to look online in the MLS. Wouldn't this describe 99% of the buyers today?
You're absolutely right. And as a traditional broker, even I have to acknowledge that the way buyers search for homes today is overwhelmingly online first. In fact, I'd say your estimate is spot on. Yes, roughly 99% of buyers begin and conduct the majority of their home search online. National statistics back that up. According to annual surveys by the National Association of Realtors, over 95% of home buyers say they use the internet as their primary search tool. Of those, a majority said the first step they took when thinking about buying was to look at listings online, not call a realtor, not drive neighborhoods.
Yeah.
This trend is even more pronounced among out-of-area and relocation buyers, which, as you said, represents a large share of buyers in places like rural Washington and the Olympic Peninsula. In the past, yard signs and local newspaper ads were essential. Today, a sign is still helpful, but its value is situational, as in large condo complexes, subdivisions, or neighborhoods with foot or vehicle traffic. I would say that in a 500-unit condo complex, a discreet for sale sign can tip off a neighbor, visiting family member, or an investor who wasn't otherwise aware of the listing. But in rural or private properties, a sign is often irrelevant, and sometimes even counterproductive from a privacy or security standpoint. Online listings are the new front yard, with listings syndicated through many sites on the internet. And there are mobile apps and map-based searches. Buyers are zooming in on neighborhoods virtually. They're not driving around aimlessly looking for signs. They're going online and filtering by price, beds, baths, and features. They're looking at photos, virtual tours, and floor plans. As you know well, Chuck, retirees coming from California, Arizona, or the East Coast aren't driving through Sequim or Port Angeles every weekend. They're making decisions from afar, and they're saving listings to favorites, sending links to their spouses or adult children, and scheduling a visit with a buyer's agent to view only the top few listings. In these cases, a yard sign isn't just unnecessary, it's often never seen at all. Signs still have limited value in certain urban or high-density settings, and I still use them in most listings as a default, but I would never claim they're the key to selling a home. Online exposure through the Northwest MLS and its syndication partners is the real battleground.
That makes sense. So one last question about signage, and I'm playing the devil's advocate here, so forgive me for this question, but doesn't a for sale sign in front of a gorgeous home generate more buyer leads for you as the listing broker than it does for the homeowner?
That's a fair question, and I appreciate the devil's advocate approach because it gets to the heart of something many sellers don't always realize. The honest answer? Yes. A yard sign absolutely generates leads, not just for the property, but often for the listing broker personally. And in a traditional brokerage model like mine, that's part of the strategy, even if it's not always said out loud. Let me break it down transparently. There's a dual purpose for the sign. When I place a sign in front of a beautiful, well-staged home, yes, it advertises the home, but it also advertises me, my name, my face, my brokerage, and my phone number. Every call or inquiry that comes in from that sign is a lead, and while I'm ethically required to act in my seller's best interest regarding their property, that doesn't mean I can't convert that lead into a buyer for another home. Now it's true that most sign callers don't buy that house. This is the hidden truth in our industry. A buyer sees the sign and calls me. Maybe they say, "I saw the home on Oak Ridge Drive." I answer their questions, determine it's not the right fit, and then something like say, "Well, there are 3 others nearby that may work even better. Can I show them to you?" You see, now I'm showing them other listings and possibly writing an offer on another broker's home. Meanwhile, my listing client never meets that buyer, never hears about that lead, and may assume the sign helped them, but in reality, it helped me grow my business. This is why dual agency is so tempting. In Washington State, where dual agency is legal, a listing agent has a built-in incentive to attract buyers through the sign, represent both sides of the transaction, and double the commission. And while I'll follow all disclosure laws and ethical requirements as a realtor, I can't deny that signs help me more than they help the seller in many cases. In the real estate business, the plain and simple truth is that the seller's best interest isn't always the driving force of our marketing decisions. If the home sells to a buyer I met through the sign, then yes, it helped the seller. But if the sign mostly generates leads for me to work with other buyers or grow my database, then frankly, the benefit is tilted in my favor, not the homeowners. So, yes, a for sale sign is often a better lead generator for the listing broker than a marketing tool for the seller. I still recommend it in many cases because it can increase visibility, especially in neighborhoods. But if a seller declines a sign because they don't want to be part of a passive lead generation funnel for their agent, I completely understand, and I respect that choice.
So let's talk about open houses. I've heard from realtors for decades that they don't actually sell homes at open houses, but they do meet a lot of potential buyer clients So an open house is one of the best lead generation tools for realtors. Is that true?
That is true. Open houses rarely sell the home they're held for, but they're excellent tools for real estate agents to meet unrepresented buyers. Do open houses sell homes? Occasionally, yes, but not often. Industry stats consistently show that fewer than 3 to 5% of home sales originate directly from an open house. Said another way, that means 95 to 97% of open houses do not sell that house. Most serious buyers are already working with agents, and they schedule private showings, often before or after open houses even happen. Of course, a listing agent holding an open house is going to try to talk a buyer into walking away from a buyer's agent if they're already working with one. It's very competitive out there. The reality is that open house attendees are often curious neighbors, looky-loos, just starting the process, or buyers who haven't committed to an agent yet. So, while it's possible someone walks in and falls in love on the spot, it's extremely rare. More often than not, the open house creates the illusion of activity for the seller and an opportunity pipeline for the agent. So, I think your question was really, what do agents actually gain by holding an open house? This is where things get interesting. At a successful open house, I, as the listing broker, can meet 5 to 15 potential buyers in a single afternoon. The question I train my agents to ask is, are you working with an agent? Most aren't. Then the idea is to offer to show them other properties. That leads to collecting their contact information and trying to convert them into clients. And here's the kicker, Chuck. Even if they're not interested in the home I'm holding open, I can end up representing them on another home and possibly double-ending a sale somewhere else. So while the seller sees the open house as a marketing tool for their home, in reality, it's often a lead generation strategy for my business. So why do we keep doing open houses and keep telling our selling clients that open houses are good? Because they keep sellers happy, especially those who expect visible activity. You know, in sales, Chuck, that much of what is sold is perception and built into our business model. As part of our sales approach, we need to get clients to sign that listing agreement. Of course, there's some hype, but there is in all sales, no? There are ethical considerations here. If I'm being transparent with my sellers, I'll say, open houses rarely result in direct sales, but they can generate interest and are good for creating a sense of momentum. I'm happy to do them, but they shouldn't be the foundation of your marketing plan. That's the truth. Maybe it's not the whole truth, but it's not a lie. I would not disagree with you that open houses benefit the agent more than the seller most of the time. They're part tradition, part optics, and part lead generation machine. They can have strategic value in specific cases, like new listings, high traffic areas, and unique properties, but they are rarely what gets a home sold. That's the plain truth.
Well said, John. I appreciate that. Regarding office and agent networking, that's something you mentioned as another way a listing broker might ultimately connect with a buyer through another broker in the same office. And that's kind of rare, isn't it? In other words, it's extremely rare for a listing agent to also be the buyer's agent on the same property. Since most listings are sold by other agents, and since there are hundreds of agents outside the listing broker's office, the buyer is more likely to come through another buyer's agent at another brokerage. It's nice to boast about the in-home networking in a listing presentation, but statistically, a buyer will rarely come from inside the listing broker's agency.
You're right again, Chuck, and I appreciate how precisely you're drilling into these long-standing talking points used in listing presentations. Let's unpack the myth versus reality around in-house networking and intra-office sales. The claim might go something like this. Our office has 40 agents. We might already have your buyer. Ha! It sounds good, doesn't it? It gives the impression of exclusivity and internal horsepower. But what's the reality? The truth is, most homes are sold by buyer's agents from outside the listing agent's office. Internal sales happen, but they're statistically rare. I'll explain why that's the case. The Northwest MLS is a fully cooperative system. Every member of the Northwest MLS has equal access to every listing. There's no advantage given to in-house agents. They see listings the same way every other agent in the region does. The buyer's agent is going to show whatever best matches their client's needs, regardless of the listing broker's office. Even if I manage an office with 40 agents, that's a tiny fraction of the 30,000 plus licensed Northwest MLS members. Statistically, the odds that the right buyer is working with someone in my office are low, maybe 2 to 5% at best. As we've already said in this interview, buyers usually find listings for themselves online first. Most buyers discover listings through Zillow, Redfin, or their agent's MLS feed. They're not calling our front desk asking, "What do you have in-house?" I wish they were, but that's not how consumers behave. When in-house deals do happen, it's usually one of the following. It could be the result of dual agency, where the listing agent finds an unrepresented buyer, less common now due to increased buyer representation awareness. Or it could be the result of a seasoned agent in the office who has a long-time client who happens to match the listing, more coincidence than system. Or less likely, it could be the result of office meetings or email blasts that spark a connection if the listing is highly unique or in short supply. In listing appointments, brokers will typically say, "We have weekly office meetings to promote your home internally," which is true, but in practice, it rarely leads directly to a sale. It's more of a feel-good, check-the-box routine than a strategic edge. Office networking sounds strong in theory, but in a fully cooperative, digitally connected marketplace like the Northwest MLS, it holds very little practical weight. The buyer is far more likely to come through an outside agent from another brokerage based on online search results and broad MLS exposure, not because someone in the listing agent's office already had a buyer.
Yeah, I agree. So traditional advertising seems to have been dying a slow and painful death for quite a few years now. I wrote about that in a book about 12 years ago. For example, advertising a home for sale in a print newspaper is generally considered a total waste of money. Billboards used to be used by some brokers back in the day, but billboards are not only extremely expensive today, but buyers don't find homes or even agents off billboards anymore. As we said earlier, buyers are using online MLS sites to search for homes. And they can do that from the comfort of their own dining room table and, on a laptop and even on their cell phone in a car somewhere. So while advertising on Google worked in the beginning, consumers, they don't respond with great enthusiasm to pop-up ads anymore on the internet. Social media doesn't sell real estate directly to buyers, at least not in any significant statistical volume. And company websites are a necessity, but buyers have been saying for a long time, they don't look for a franchise website or even their company MLS site. Buyers are, they like to be independent, on the internet. And most buyers prefer Zillow to search for homes. I don't mean to downplay your list of benefits of listing with a traditional listing broker and all your traditional advertising methods, but would you let your hair down and at least acknowledge that none of these advertising methods your office uses really does much, if anything, to help a homeowner get their home sold quickly for the highest possible price?
Now, you're hitting a nerve, and I appreciate the directness. You're asking the tough questions that a lot of sellers should be asking, but rarely do. And since you've asked me, the traditional broker who's been doing this for 30 years, to take the gloves off and be honest, here's the blunt truth. Traditional advertising has become more about optics than actual results. And while I still go through the motions, because that's what the industry expects and what many sellers feel comfortable with, I'll level with you. Very few of the traditional advertising methods we promote in a listing presentation actually cause a home to sell in today's market. Let's take them one by one, honestly. Print newspaper ads are dead and almost completely irrelevant. Most newspapers have limited circulation, shrinking readership, and virtually no home search functionality. If I run a print ad today, it's usually to appease a nostalgic seller or to show effort. But that ad doesn't move the needle. Billboards are marketing for the agent, not the listings. They're expensive, broad, and not targeted. Buyers don't take action based on a billboard. It's brand building for me, not results for a home seller. TV and radio advertising in real estate sales is now almost non-existent now. If they're used, it's by mega agents for visibility, not to sell a specific home. As for company websites, they're necessary, but not buyer magnets. The majority of buyers don't browse Coldwell Banker's website or Keller Williams' website looking for listings. They're on Zillow, Redfin, or mobile apps with cleaner interfaces and better tools. What about Google and pop-up ads? Consumers are banner blind. Pop-ups annoy more than they convert. Click-through rates are very small, and when people do click, they bounce quickly unless the experience is seamless. One study said you have 3 to 5 seconds to capture a consumer's interest or they're gone. Social media. It gets views, likes, and sometimes comments, but very few qualified buyers. Social media posts are mostly about marketing the agent and creating the perception of exposure. It's not where buyers are searching, it's where agents hope to be noticed. So what does actually work today? Online MLS exposure via the Northwest MLS, syndicated out to Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, and mobile apps. This is where the sale happens. That's where the buyer sees the home. That's where they save it, share it, show their spouse. And that's how they contact their buyer's agent or request a showing. If traditional advertising doesn't sell, why do traditional brokers keep doing it? Frankly, because it looks good. It creates the illusion of activity, it comforts sellers, and it fills up a nice bullet list on a listing presentation. And sometimes, Chuck, agents are just doing what they've always done, because that's what their managing broker taught them in 2006. I hate to admit it, but many of the tactics we promote in the listing appointment are more about justifying the commission than they are about delivering real results. That's just the hard truth. That's sales, and we have to have a business model that sustains our brokerage, right?
Well, you do, if you're going to survive. Well, John, it's been a real pleasure talking with you. I just appreciate your honesty and how you approach your business and are evolving today with what works and doesn't work. So on behalf of all my viewers, I want to thank you again for your honest assessment of the listing side of the real estate brokerage. I think many homeowners who are thinking about selling their homes and listing it will benefit from your lifetime of knowledge and wisdom. And again, thank you so much, John.
I can tell you, Chuck, it has been my pleasure to join you for this interview, although I have to admit, you ask tough questions. Let's hope I don't get in trouble with my own industry for being absolutely honest with you in this interview.
Thank you, John. Well, it's been a pleasure. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed this interview, and I hope you find it beneficial. If you're thinking about selling a home, or you're currently listed, it might be helpful to understand from the traditional brokerage perspective, honestly, what works and what doesn't work. And so I look forward to seeing you in the next video.